Hey, guess what? The new season of Russiagate is with us, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you saw the big headlines. Oh, look, the P tape is real. Critics claim Kremlin leak confirms every awful thing about Trump ends up being absolutely true. So there's, again, we debunked this in another video, this whole story by this guy, Luke Harding. I had Aaron Mate on, who's the award-winning journalist who debunked Russiagate. He's the premier journalist to do that. And so he also debunked Luke Harding in this story, right? So this story is not verified at all. It's complete made-up garbage by Luke Harding. And if you believe that he had some documents that came from a leak inside the Kremlin, you would also have to think that the Kremlin still was using mechanical typewriters in 2016. So this is a completely discredited story. Of course, it goes in Raw Story and these garbage, and they're trying to say the Steele dossier was real. The P tape is real. The Steele dossier has been discredited 100%. It was put together by a spy, a British MI6 spy, a guy who hadn't been to Russia in years. And it was all made up. He paid people inside to make stories up, and they did. And his sources even told him, hey, this isn't reliable. By the way, it was opposition research. So that Steele dossier was just opposition research that the FBI treated as real. So here's the New York Intelligencer. The Steele dossier was a case study in how reporters get manipulated. That's right there. To pick the worst press failure of the past half-decade would be a daunting assignment, but the coverage of the Steele dossier would be high on any list. The document, penned by former British intelligence agent Christopher Steele, was commissioned in 2016 by the private research firm Fusion GPS, in turn working for the presidential campaign of Hillary Clinton. So this guy got hired by a company working for Hillary Clinton. So Hillary Clinton's company, Fusion GPS, hired this guy to put together some dirt on their opposition, which was Donald Trump. It's called opposition research. Everybody does it. The aim was to dig up dirt on Donald Trump, especially regarding any ties he might have to Russia. Steele delivered, alleging a long-standing conspiracy between Trump and the Kremlin and offering details that proved to be as unfounded as they were spectacular. Huh. So, but it made for some great television. It made for great television, people reporting the Steele dossier. Most infamously, a surveillance video of Trump cavorting with prostitutes at the Ritz-Carlton in Moscow, which is known as the P tape, which does not exist. Although they were certainly specious, these claims spawned countless news stories and prompted government investigations into possible ties between Moscow and Trump. There was a stream of intelligence that trickled a little bit of bullshit in at a time. That's what that means. The Steele dossier is just one recent instance of the media presenting the public with information that originated in a vast, opaque industry of private spies and operatives for hire who inject the mainstream press by feeding tips and scoops to reporters. So, in other words, they were stenographers to paid spies, and that's not how the news is supposed to work. So that's what they're, so everybody in the press in the United States were stenographers to paid spies, a vast, opaque industry of private spies and operatives. That's what MSNBC, CNN, the New York Times, Washington Post, The Intercept, BuzzFeed, Young Turks, all of it. That's what they were repeating when they were repeating the Steele dossier. They were being stenographers to paid spies and operatives. New York Times veteran Barry Meyer says people who got it wrong are not really raising their head over the parapet at this point and saying, yeah, I got it wrong, and here's why I got it wrong. Wow, people in corporate media not admitting they got stuff wrong. I am shocked. I am shocked. Hey, Barry Meyer went on, we as journalists need to reassess how we engage with hired spies and private operatives. No one went back and scrutinized Christopher Steele. No one went back and scrutinized Fusion GPS. It's our job, and it's always been our job as journalists to scrutinize information, and that didn't happen here. I mean, the Steele dossier reporting was a travesty. The whole Russiagate reporting was a travesty. The fact that I could get it right, a jagoff pothead comedian in my garage could get that right, when everybody from CNN to the Washington Post to everybody at The Intercept, everybody at MSNBC, everybody at the Young Turks got it wrong 100,000%. It tells you that those people are shit. And our system is shit. And they go along with herd mentality. And when a fucking comedian who's not even trying does a much better job than they are, that's why you see the country's in the position. It's not because of Facebook posts that this country's fucked up. It's not because of misinformation on Twitter. This country's fucked up because the entirety of the establishment media works for fucking 5 people. And they're all looking out for their own ass and their own career. And they have herd mentality and they're gutless. The best of them are gutless. Jonathan Chait. Oh, the Steele dossier is looking more and more real. Hey, Jonathan, I don't know, but your own magazine just debunked it. Jonathan, your own magazine. See, the story I just got done going through, they just debunked it. But that guy will never have to pay a price for all his Russiagating, for all his bullshit, for all his garbage reporting, for all his misinformation, for all his lies, for all his lazy, not unfact checking. He'll never have to pay a price for that because he's a garbage person who lies in favor of the establishment. 5 years of this crap and we're still going through the same cycle, says Primo Radical. And here is the cycle. Media makes outrageous claim like they did here. They said, oh, we got this leak from the Kremlin that confirms everything bad about Trump and the dossier. So media makes outrageous claim. Democrats screech, we told you so. Claim gets thoroughly debunked. It's already been thoroughly debunked. Media quietly retracts the story and the media makes new outrageous claims. So we're just waiting for the next new outrageous claim. Start cycle all over again. Primo Radical got it right. So this is the new season of Russiagate. They're saying that they got this stupid leaked stuff that confirms the dossier. Dossier is not confirmed. The shit Democrats are shit Democrats. Shit libs are still shit libs. And Aaron Mate should really be given way more awards. How about that? Our live shows are back. August 4th, we're in Burbank. August 7th, we're in Chicago. We're going to Portland. We're going to Boston. We're going to everywhere. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for tickets.
To reject moving forward with the bipartisan infrastructure bill. It was a vote of 51 to 49. This was, again, a procedural vote that Senate Leader Chuck Schumer had insisted be held today. CBSN Washington reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns is on Capitol Hill and joins us now. Hi, Caitlin. So what happens? The procedural vote has been rejected. We did see Senator Schumer come up for a moment there and ask that the vote be reconsidered. What was that about exactly?
Hi, Tanya. That's right. So if you
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Tommy Nation Politics.
When you say you must have the whole bill done before you go forward, when negotiations have been going on for a month and there have been things added and things subtracted, you'll never get it done.
No time is lost by adhering to a very simple principle. We're not going to the bill until we know what the bill is.
There's a broad agreement between Democrats and some Republicans in Congress that the United States needs a big-ticket infrastructure package. The result of that has been what Democrats have called a two-track process, which means that they are seeking to both pass a bipartisan bill at a smaller scale that involves getting the votes of some Republicans in the Senate, but at the same time, Democrats want to pass their own much larger, much more expensive bill through the reconciliation process. Democrats and the Biden administration are starting to become concerned that this process is taking too long and that they're running out of time to get something done.
We should be united in one thing: passage of the bipartisan infrastructure framework, which we shook hands on.
Biden spent months negotiating with one group of Republicans who he ultimately couldn't come to a deal with. He celebrated publicly coming to the framework of an agreement with another group of senators.
And to answer your direct question, we have a deal.
11 Republicans said that they were signed on to at least the framework of this bill, but they've hit a big roadblock, which is how to pay for it.
Is IRS enforcement still part of your proposal or not?
Well, one reason it's not part of the proposal is that we did have pushback.
They turned a win into less of a win very quickly when Biden announced publicly that he wanted that Democrats-only reconciliation bill to arrive at his desk before he would be willing to sign the bipartisan bill. Now, he had to walk his demand back. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who made a similar promise, has not walked her demand back, and it remains to be seen how in concert these two bills are going to be.
There ain't going to be no bipartisan bill unless we are going to have the reconciliation bill.
Complicating this even further for Democrats is internal party tensions. In order to get this done, Democrats need enough Democratic senators to stay on board with the bipartisan plan. But they can't lose too many of their own members on the reconciliation bill either. We know that there are liberal Democrats in the House who have already objected to the contents of these bills. Some of those same liberals in the last few months have made it known they are willing to vote against the party line. There are not a lot of legislative areas where Democrats feel like there is any amount of common ground with Republicans to get a bill passed. If Biden and the Biden administration and Senate Democrats can't get a deal done on an issue like this, where Republicans say publicly, we believe that there needs to be a big funding bill for infrastructure, that's a really bad sign for the rest of the Biden agenda, where there's even less agreement with Republicans in most other areas.
Today, the Democratic leader appears to be intent on calling a vote he knows will fail. For several weeks now, Republicans and Democratic senators have been working together, trying to assemble a bipartisan package for our nation's infrastructure. It's an important and a complex subject. They're talking about big projects and big sums of money. They're still talking, still working, still negotiating in good faith across the aisle. But these discussions have yet to conclude. There's no outcome yet, no bipartisan agreement, no text, nothing for the Congressional Budget Office to evaluate, and certainly nothing on which to vote. Not yet. So obviously, if the Democratic leader tries to force a cloture vote on a bill that does not exist, it will fail. Around here, we typically write the bills before we vote on them. That's the custom. Of course, here in the Senate, a failed cloture vote does not mean no forever. In the middle of the early COVID crisis back in March of 2020, with Americans under stay-home orders and financial markets plummeting, Senate Democrats withheld cloture from the CARES Act multiple times so they could continue haggling behind the scenes. Now, this was during a real emergency. Every day, every hour was crucial. But Senate Democrats blocked cloture multiple times until various details were fine-tuned to their liking. Here's what the Democratic leader said while his side tanked those cloture votes last March of 2020. The majority leader was well aware of how this vote would go before it happened, but he chose to move forward with it anyway, even though negotiations are continuing. So who's playing games? That was the Democratic leader in March of 2020 in the middle of a national emergency. That, of course, was a fast-moving global crisis. With bipartisan text already in hand, there was a bill. Yet Senate Democrats insisted on taking their time in the middle of this national 100-year pandemic. Now, we're talking about long-term infrastructure investments that will pay out over many years, but he wants to vote before any agreement even exists. So this stunt is set to fail. The Democratic leader will be free to change his vote and move to reconsider whenever a bipartisan product actually exists.
Joining me now is NBC's congressional correspondent Garrett Haake. Garrett, this is a stunning decision by the Speaker. The hearing is on Tuesday, as you well know. And here, as we were just talking about with Congresswoman Spanberger, the other Republicans may very well say that they're not going to play.
Yeah, I think there's a significant chance here that Kevin McCarthy will say, as he's already been saying, that he thinks this is a political exercise, and then Nancy Pelosi just proved it by rejecting members of committee, one of whom's a member, not of a leadership team, but of a prominent conference within the Republican conference, one of whom is a ranking member on other committees. Already you've had this year Democrats reaching across the aisle to kick Marjorie Taylor Greene off her committees. That was the kind of thing that infuriated Republicans, but on a lesser scale. Now I think you're going to see Republicans say, this is a political exercise. You're not trying to be bipartisan. You're not trying to get to the bottom of it. Democrats will push back against that, of course, but if Republicans choose not to participate in this, if your goal in the outset was to find answers that everyone will view as trustworthy, not having Republicans appointed by the Republican leader on this committee doesn't help you get there. Using Liz Cheney to provide a sheen of bipartisanship, I don't think will cut it with House Republicans or with those who support them across the country who might be at least curious to see what this committee might have otherwise turned up.
And Troy Nehls is a member of the committee, and she is not ejecting him, but he was also opposed to the Biden electoral count.
Well, and in fact, the Speaker's office had said earlier this week that they weren't going to use whether or not you voted or how you voted on the certification of the election results as a criteria to determine whether people would be allowed on this committee. In the statement from Pelosi's office, it's not clear exactly why she's rejecting Banks and Jordan, only that it refers to complaints or concerns about these two members and the idea that, these are unprecedented times and so unprecedented steps have to be taken.
And she says in part of her statement, with respect for the integrity of the investigation, with an insistence on the truth, and with concern about statements made and actions taken by these members, which makes it particular to them, I must reject the recommendations of Representative Banks and Jordan to the Select Committee. So she is singling them out and standing on that. So we're wait to see, Garrett, what more she has to say. But all eyes are going to be focused, as they already were, on Tuesday's hearing.
I think that's right.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Having some technical issues here. I hope y'all can hear me. Can y'all hear me good? Hopefully. I just got a new webcam, so it's a little interesting. It's different, more colorful. I like that. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Tommy Nation Politics, guys. So we've got a lot of things going on in the news. We have a lot of things. The two-track process, guys. What does that mean? The two-track process. The media makes outrageous claims about Steele dossiers. There's still Russiagate still going on. Democrats feign outrage, misinformation. Misinformation in the COVID vaccine, guys. Remember that? Jen Psaki last week, she wanted Facebook and Twitter to get on the misinformation. But they're still spreading misinformation with Russiagate. Shitlibs are still shitlibbing. Deep state is still moving. And we have got stunts, grunts, and punts. We're doing political stunts, guys, with the dossiers. With the Russian dossiers, we're doing stunts. We're doing stunts by leaving the Capitol on a vote. The Democrats in Texas, we're doing stunts over there. We're doing political stunts when you're Ted Cruz and you're Cuban. So now you got to talk about Cubans, right? Political stunts. Why all the political stunts, guys? Well, midterm madness, of course. By the way, I had a great conversation. I was on stereo with some people. I'm going to show you that conversation a little bit more, but I just have to get their names right because, yeah, Beak Blotcher and also my guest, Mike Allen and the Alliance. They're on stereo. Shout out to them. They took me for a hoodwink. Their show was called Biden Will Be the GOAT. Prove me wrong. And I went on there like a sucker, and I was like, I outlined every part of his racist history, his past, and then they were like, "Oh, this is a fucking joke, trapdoor." It was awesome though. I'll let y'all gonna hear that on the podcast. But that was a stunt that was actually good. The rest of these stunts, guys, the Democrats and Republicans are doing, not so good, guys. Not so good. We've got feigning outrage on misinformation. Jen Psaki, she's misinformation. She wins the crown, the pageant. The deep state's moving, trying to take away our rights, our life, our liberty, our pursuit of happiness. The neo-libs, the shit-libs, helping it along. They love the cancel culture. In fact, they want to make sure that Bill Cosby doesn't ever work again. I don't know how I feel about that. Y'all get on the chat. Let me know what you think about Bill Cosby. But the main two things that I'm concerned about, guys, is, and by the way, it's not the midterms that I'm concerned about. What I want to happen from the midterms is I want the Democrats to lose the Senate because they deserve it. They're cheaters. Not because they rigged an election. I don't know about that. I've still yet to see proof. But they said that there was going to be $2,000 out the door on day one, right? They bribed the people of Georgia. And then they gave us $1,400 checks after Trump gave us $600. After they voted for the military budget. Remember that, guys? Then they gave us the $600. So that's how little they care about us, guys. That's just one of the ways that they don't give a shit about us. Is that they would rather expand and explode the military budget than to give a shit about the American people. 8 million people, by the way, who slipped into poverty during Nancy Pelosi's Missing Heroes Act that passed the House of Representatives. A lot of things passed the House of Representatives, guys. A lot of things. We got the Heroes Act that passed the House of Representatives. We had the $2,000 checks passed the House of Representatives. You remember that? Did they ever get in the hands of the American people? No. Let me ask you another question, guys. Did they swore an oath to protect us from threats, foreign and domestic? Did they succeed in protecting us from threats, foreign and domestic? No. All the incumbents need to be voted out come the midterms. You have Governor Abbott. Now, I wanted to show this later on, but Governor Abbott, he thinks that he's going to combat fentanyl at the Texas border. You remember the Republican platform of the drug war, and they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some are good people. That's pretty much the platform of the Republican Party when it comes to the drug war. Little do they know, even after 40 years of neoliberal policies with the Democrats, that their fucking plans, they always backfire. Like, for instance, when you make drugs illegal and you stigmatize marijuana, then a black market ensues and the cartels become rich beyond all imagination. Backfire. So now Abbott's trying his little neoliberal hand at fentanyl. This could only work one way, guys. The worst way. The worst way, guys.
New developments on the crisis at our southern border tonight. During this pandemic, more than 15,000 people held in detention centers have tested positive for COVID-19. 9 of whom have died. And now the American Civil Liberties Union is urging the Biden administration to give detained immigrants access to COVID vaccinations. Now, according to the ACLU, as of May 5th, more than 2,700 detained immigrants have received at least 1 dose of the vaccine. But get this, there are more than 22,000 undocumented immigrants in custody right now. ICE previously said that detention facilities had to contact their state health departments to get those vaccines. But now ICE says officials are working with other federal agencies to get their own doses. Now, another growing concern is the trafficking of drugs across the Texas border by Mexican drug cartels. And today, Governor Greg Abbott announced a new criminal offense for the manufacturing and distribution of fentanyl. Our Andy Sirota is live now in our newsroom with those details. Andy?
Chris, the new offense includes a punishment beginning as a third-degree felony for anyone who manufactures or delivers fentanyl, making it one of the toughest drug laws in Texas. Governor Abbott called the smuggling of fentanyl across the southern border a crisis and is deploying 1,000 Texas DPS troopers and National Guard members. Part of the more than $1 billion approved by state lawmakers for border security will be used to help the Texas Department of Public Safety to expand its crackdown efforts on fentanyl at the border. Governor Abbott says in just the first 4 months of this year, Texas authorities seized more than 21 million lethal doses of fentanyl. To put that in context, that's more than enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the state of New York. To combat the dangers, Abbott says it's imperative for parents, schools, and the community at large to get involved in protecting.
So, guys, is this not familiar as fuck? Is this not a fucking Reagan policy or what? We're going all the way back to Reagan. So let me get this straight, Governor Abbott. Let me get this straight. We did a drug war with Reagan. That drug war caused the cartels to become rich beyond all imagination. They have castles in South America. Castles, guys. The cartels, the reason there's a border crisis is because the cartels have grown so rich, so powerful, that they tell everyone in Honduras, in Guatemala, you either join the cartel or die. Join the cartel or die. What do? They run if they don't want to join the cartel, right? Where do they run to? The land of liberty, life, and little do they know. Now, what is Governor Abbott's prescription for this crisis? This border crisis that's caused by our demand. See, in economics, there's a supply and a demand. It's caused by our demand for drugs. Now, there's 2 reasons for our demand for drugs. One is because we live in a society that is a sick society with bandwagon mentality, fakeness, and utter nonsense. We shut our eyes at the truth, and we cause ourselves to have cognitive dissonance and hypocrisy when it comes to other people's faults and flaws. We actually project those to ourselves. We're sick. So we need drugs to make sure that we, get that anxiety off our chests. So we have a demand for drugs that way. And we also have a demand for drugs because we don't have universal health care. We don't have universal health care, and our prescriptions are expensive as fuck. So some people self-medicate because they can't afford their prescriptions, because we have a vulture capitalist healthcare industry that was horrible during Reagan. And then when Barack Obama decided to do Obamacare, he decided to get all of his friends, Citigroup, Blue Cross Blue Shield, into a website and make all the poor people fucking go to that website and fucking click on his friends' health insurance premiums. So let me be clear. You can keep your doctor. No, he lied. Also expanded the wars and drone-struck weddings, killed American citizens, created a surveillance program, and stored our metadata at undisclosed locations. But why not? Why not have a Joe Biden presidency? I mean, what was bad about Obama? All those things I listed. Can't see those if you're partisan, right? So this is a continuation, guys, of the Obama era policies. This is a continuation of the Obama era policies in the foreign policy, with our foreign wars and our posturing with Putin and Iran. This is a continuation of the Obama era policies with the drug war and how Obama had the power, and so does Joe Biden, to declassify marijuana as a Schedule I drug. He does not. In fact, Biden doesn't want to. He said 3 clear things during his campaign. Nothing will fundamentally change. He said, I will not sign a bill that says Medicare for all. I will veto that bill. He said that. He also said, look, fat, I'm a Democratic caucus. You're a lying dog-faced pony show. No, he also said he was going to make sure that he was going to buttress Obamacare, right? That was the whole point of him not wanting a Medicare for all. It's because he doesn't want to throw away his predecessor's wonderful piece of legislation that robs the poor and fines us for getting... He wants to bring back the fines, guys. I'm not making this up. He wants to revive Obamacare in its entirety. And Obamacare in its entirety is them fining people for not having health care. Just so you know. Was that going to help the economy? Is that going to help the people who need a hand up? Are those left-wing principles? Yes. They're practicing vulture capitalism. And if you're AOC, you're practicing merch capitalism. So the world's upside down. We've got Stunts, and we've got Grunts, AOC doing her TikToks, running interference for the Democratic machine while taking your money, your donations, I guess. I want to know where else AOC is getting this money, guys. Because she's supposed to be a progressive. Now, I have to say that she's had calls to tax the rich. The rich are not being taxed. In fact, they're on their way to space right now. She's had calls to fight climate change. And this infrastructure bill is supposed to have that in it. I don't see any details. And maybe the reason I don't see any details on this infrastructure bill, guys, is because there's 2 different bills. It's a 2-track process. Did you hear that? What their reporter said? It means Biden wants to have his cake and eat it too. Biden told the Republicans we're going to have a bipartisan bill. He's a liar. Then he went to the news media and said, we have a deal, right? You saw that? And does Mitch McConnell think that this 2-track process is something that's acceptable? No. So I don't really think that there's a deal with that, but I do know that there's a smoke-filled room with a whole bunch of Senate Democrats getting together and coming up with a figure, $3.5 trillion that the New York Times reported. So I don't know what Biden's plan is. Does Biden really think he can get away with this like he did throughout his entire presidential campaigns? Plagiarize and lie and expect people not to notice? Because you're president now, President Biden. So you can't lie to Mitch McConnell. They go to the media and say something else. They go to the first smoke-filled room and fucking come up with $3.5 trillion. Now, I know the New York Times wants to do that shit all day long. They'll just fucking go along with it. In fact, they will do nothing but write from whitehouse.gov, Jen Psaki's handwritten notes. They get it from, I know because I go to the website, guys. I know because I go to the website. The media is lazy as fuck, which is why I never trusted this infrastructure shit in the first place. They said there was going to be a Medicare expansion. I didn't see it. I went to the Congress website to see what they were putting into law. They were putting this bipartisan bill into law, guys. This bipartisan bill with the Republicans. So which one is he, who is he lying to? Which one of us is he lying to? Are we going to have Medicare expansion? Because the Republicans don't want that. What's going on? It's an interesting turn of affairs, guys. You have the midterms coming up, which means that all of the seats in the House of Representatives, guys, all 435 are up for re-election. The speakership, Nancy Pelosi's speakership, up for re-election. 34 of the 100 seats in the Senate up for re-election. That's 39 state and territorial, gubernatorial, and numerous other states and local elections, guys. Governor Abbott's being primaried by Allen West in the Republican primary in Texas, and to the left, he's being challenged by Matthew McConaughey. All right, from Austin. Yes, guys, Matthew McConaughey is from Austin. He walks around with no shoes and he rides a motorcycle. I've seen him before. He likes Fuzzy's tacos, Torchy's tacos, whatever it's called. But I don't think Matthew McConaughey has a chance because these Democrats and Republicans are gangbangers. They got their gangbanging mentality sycophants to run interference for them. The pro-life spiel. The Republicans don't care about anything but funneling wealth to their donors, just like the Democrats. But they all have different kind of aspects and perspectives that they can work on, relating to you, so they can get your vote, so they can fuck you over and funnel their wealth to the 1%. So they really work hard. They really do work hard, trying to figure out what you like, what your principles and values are. Then they try to mimic those with a Gallup poll or some kind of fucking survey. And then they come out swinging, talking about how we want to tax the rich, how we want to fucking blah, 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 blah. It's all lip service, guys. If you haven't noticed, guys, there have been many calls to tax the rich. Our tax code hasn't changed. If you haven't noticed, nothing's fundamentally changed, guys. Well, nothing except for one thing. Actually, two things. Two things, very important things have changed, guys. Two things. Nancy Pelosi is done with you guys. She's robbed you guys for like 5 times. She literally, 8 million people slipped into poverty. She fucking destroyed Trump. Made him look like an idiot, getting on Twitter asking for a stimulus, giving us $600 in the middle of the pandemic. She really planned that shit well. Then she got on Joanne Reid and said he was dancing around like COVID didn't exist. Now the media has coalesced, not just with the military-industrial complex, Wall Street and the banks. They've coalesced with the entire deep state and with each other and the technocrats. The technocrats, guys. 1984 is coming. Be aware.
Well, thank you for coming, and I really appreciate you coming to my office and letting me speak with you all about censorship. As probably most of you know, I was suspended or I guess banned on Twitter for 12 hours last night after, or they said it was 2 tweets that I had tweeting information that anyone can have access to on the internet, looking up and reading. Also saying things that not most, but regular Americans all over the country say, a lot of people in my district, a lot of people in Georgia, but also people from all over the country say these things. They're concerned about the vaccines that are not FDA approved. Now, my stance has been the entire time, I am for people getting the vaccine if they choose to, and I'm for people not getting the vaccine if they choose to. But I think it has to be a choice and not a mandate. Not mandated by schools, not mandated by businesses, and not mandated by the government. And this is an important issue for everyone. See, right now, we have many reports of side effects from the vaccines, and according to the CDC website that anyone can look up, there are reports of over 12,000 deaths. You see, I put on my tweet 6,000, but I just checked, it's been updated, and it's over 12,000 now. And this is important information for people to know. Also, I tweeted about how obesity is one of the biggest risk factors for people with COVID-19 that leads to hospitalization and death. And this is a very important thing that I don't see enough people talking about. If we care about people and we care about their health and we care about their safety, then we should care about helping them with the #1 risk factor that could lead to hospitalization or death, and that is obesity. This is also an issue that leads to many other medical problems, as well as high costs in healthcare. So I think this is something that people should be talking about. If we're going to talk about going door to door to victims of COVID-19, this Chinese virus, Dr. Fauci very much was involved in funding the gain of function research. This is a virus that has been made. It's a man-made virus.
So Marjorie Taylor Greene, not the brightest bulb in the pail. Okay? She's clearly not very bright. She's clearly kind of insane, somewhat uneducated, and extremely annoying, just like AOC. But I will tell you this, guys. Out of all, this is getting interesting, okay? And as someone who doesn't have bandwagon mentality, quantifiably, I'm looking at the column. I'm seeing that Fauci lied about not having masks. Then he lied. Then he said we should have masks. He's not being censored by Twitter. We have a drug distributor, Johnson & Johnson, who holds the patent of a vaccine that just now settled, reached his $26 billion deal to end the opioid lawsuits. As the addiction crisis is worsening, this is from the New York Times, guys. They've reached a $26 billion settlement with, this allows funds to be, New York Times, this allows funds to begin flowing from the companies to states and communities to pay for addiction and prevention services. So they lied about their addictive fucking drugs, right? Like a drug dealer would. Okay, so we have all of these politicians being paid off by the pharmaceutical industry, Wall Street, the banks, and the military-industrial complex, and that's what causes. I'm just gonna surmise this, guys. This is what causes them not to go for the real solutions to the problem. The real solution to the problem of addiction is, admitting you have a problem, doing something about it, getting help, not locking people up, not making tougher drug laws for non-violent offenders. That's not a solution. That solution has been tried, and it has caused the biggest penal colony in the world, guys. We incarcerate more people per capita than any other country. We do. We, the land of the free and the home of the brave, we incarcerate more people in this country than any other country. Okay? So this solution that Governor Abbott has been tried and has failed miserably, and yet he still reaches for the same neoliberal toolbox. The same neoliberal toolbox, by the way, that Joseph Biden is reaching for by not descheduling marijuana at this exact moment. I demand for Joseph Biden to decriminalize that. He has the power. I'm not an idiot. I'm not a partisan, Mr. Biden. I know exactly the power you have. I know exactly what the office encompasses. I know you hold the means of all federal policy. And I know that you have the power to right now deschedule marijuana. Declassify. You will not. You refuse. You refuse the will of the American people. And so suffer the consequences, President Biden. And this is the fruits, guys, of what the midterms are. What is about to happen. I'm not really sure what's about to happen. I really don't care either way. Either way, the Wall Street, the banks, and the military-industrial complex win. And my question to my listeners, to people who are watching me, is what are we going to do about it? How can we have the American people win? Last time I came up with some solutions. We don't fund these Democrats or Republicans ever. Right? Do not fund them. We do not fund Democrats or Republicans. We do not vote for Democrats or Republicans, right? We do not vote for Democrats or Republicans. And every incumbent who swore an oath to protect us from threats foreign and domestic, every incumbent failed at their oaths and should not be in office. It's time to just release the bandwagon mentality. It's time to stay with your principles and values and your country. And it's time to dish out the consequences that we the people, in order to establish justice and promote the general welfare, must exact. Now is not the time for bandwagon mentality, for cowardice, for corruption. Now is the time for liberty in life. Those are my solutions. What's another one? Force the vote. It was actually Jimmy Dore's idea. Force the vote. Speakerships, guys. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, right after this midterms, they're voting on a speaker. We have an opportunity to force the vote. Look out for it. Something else you could do, guys. We can force the vote from local elections all the way to national elections. Call your representatives, your local representatives, your mayors, your city councils. Tell them what you want. Tell them what you need. Till it goes up the chain of command, guys, up the ladder. It's time to make our voices heard, guys. Because a person's a person, no matter how small, like Dr. Seuss said. Now is the time, guys. If ever there was a time when we were going to be fucking boiled in hazelnut oil, it will be a time when Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House. She's playing politics with a January 6th 9/11 commission. Because neither of these parties really want to investigate the truth or integrity. They want to investigate you! Why? They need your votes. The more they know about you, the more they can pretend to relate to you and have your votes. That's what they want. They want to control you. Control you without even controlling you, just like they're doing now. A lot of you. But those are my solutions, guys. We need more solutions. And I'm not a perfect person. Maybe there could be flaws in it, but we need to try everything we can, guys. Because what did that mayor say? And Horton hears a who? It's time. It's time to make some noise. It's time to be free-thinking, innovative, and open-minded, guys. Now's the time. Domination politics.